August 2025 edition of our Kentucky K-12 CIOs and EdTech Leaders webcast. I'm David Couch. For those that are new, this is something we do every month to give kind of a overall national update, state update, and what's going on with our districts. Give you some information, get some feedback from you all. So I'll start it with our first topic. We are here at the beginning of a brand new school year, 2025 and 26. I'll have to admit, I didn't think I'd be around for this one, but here we go. Here we go through a new one. And I hope, and I know it takes a lot of time and energy to prepare before the new school year, and then there's a lot of intensity as you begin the school year, and even anxiety as you begin it. I think we have a very high percentage that have already begun the school year. Good chunk of them began last week or the week before that. There's still a smattering of districts that are starting, but welcome to the brand new school year. And I do appreciate, and there's a lot of things that kind of give people high fives for spending their time and energy for giving kids a good run and go at life. But I do want to applaud everyone for what you do in the districts here at KD and all of our partners of providing a really good experience and opportunity for students in a variety of ways, but through education technology. So definitely want to recognize that and give you a high five. I don't think there's a cooler thing, and I know I've enjoyed spending a large part of my life doing it, really helping teachers and students, and give them a good run to go at life and good opportunities, make good opportunities happen for them. I don't know if there's anything more rewarding. Maybe there's other things as rewarding, but I don't think there's anything more rewarding. So thanks for y'all as we begin another school year here. So let's talk about recent board meetings. And if you take a look at the invite, it gave a summary of last month in July. And there's a lot that happened in June and July, and actually since school closed in May. And I'd encourage you, if you've not had opportunity to really keep up with what's going on, that's a good summary of what's going on in those notes. But look, want to highlight a couple of things that have happened even since our last CIO webcast. So let's talk about our Kentucky Board of Education meeting. And this is something where we take the opportunity every year, we want the opportunity every year to update our board on the health of education technology in Kentucky K-12 and any kind of areas that we need assistance on. And so I sent you a clip, and it's a short clip. I think the OET portion was 5 or 10 minutes or something between those two. They're just giving the board an update, and I primarily took the opportunity in that is to do two things. One is to talk about the Auditor of Public Accounts review and really the high five of what we're doing in education technology, and really read to them the high points that identified what we're doing in the Kentucky education technology system that was recognized and highlighted as noteworthy accomplishments in the Auditor of Public Accounts. The other part is we spent time on was the funding. And the Kentucky Board of Education in this meeting, their August meeting, is reaffirmed and confirmed of their budget priorities, with the Kentucky education technology system being number 4. And some of the usual folks are in 1, 2, and 3. You have SEEK funding, you have transportation, you have preschool. And you'll hear this as a regular theme. We need, a all concerted effort of trying to get the KETS funding raised up. It benefits you all. It benefits us, providing services for you. So I do encourage you, whenever you can talk with your superintendent or anyone else, and you're not saying you need to do KETS versus these other ones, but talk about KETS being in that discussion, since it's a top 4, along with raising SEEK up and transportation and preschool. Really mention it and try to mention it often to them, so when legislators talk to that person, they've heard it. But this is an important year for us, an important 6 months for us to try to get that budget raised. So that was good news that they reaffirmed of that the importance of the raising the KETS funding by $14.6 million annually to address all the types of things that we're talking about doing, and not to negatively impact things that we would have to stop or start slowing down, stop or totally slow down putting in place. So that was good news throughout the board meeting to kind of hear that. And and kind of celebrate the success of education technology while always recognizing we can get better, and we're continuously on that path to try to get better. The other key component that I took from that meeting is there's going to be a major emphasis on the Kentucky Education Placement System. KEPS is trying to get the legislature to approve the funding, which basically is already there when teachers initially or ongoing renew their teaching certification. So there's a funding source to pay for the initial and ongoing cost for that. That just needs a thumbs up from the legislature to allow that. And so you'll see a pretty hard pressed, full court press on trying to get that approved as well. And we're supportive of that too. Let's talk about next the Kentucky Educational Television Board meeting. I am a board member. I've been board member there for about 12, 15 years. And always been connected from some way, but it's because the strong connection that we have with technology with KET. I sent you part, and it was a link of one of the presentations they gave about the tower and transmission update. And the reason that is important is for the public to understand it's just not the normal PBS broadcasting or PBS learning media. Kentucky Educational Television plays a huge role in emergency broadcasting across our state. And if you take a look at the 16 transmitters that are spread throughout our state, they're doing wonderful things educationally, but also they play a role with the FBI, the Kentucky Division of Emergency Management, Forestry, the Early Warning System, the National Guard, the State Police, the Transportation Cabinet, National Weather Service, and the Secret Service of getting information out there. And, KT is a very technology organization, very technology heavy, and they use that to deliver a lot of wonderful educational content. And also one of the teaching points is much like we have, we try to keep everything up 24/7, 365. And so the clip that I sent you, the PowerPoint that I sent you, showed all the recent weather events that have occurred. However, KET has remained operational through all those and providing those services. The other teaching point associated with that, during July and June, I educated you on there was a initiative to zero out the funding for the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, which from KET's perspective, it funds 25% of their staff and 75% of their programming. And that was zeroed out by the House and Senate. It was a close vote, very close vote, but it was zeroed out. And so when you zero things out that have been in place for 55 years, that funding source has been in place for Kentucky Educational Television for 55 years, there are going to be consequences. And as I gave you, one of the services they do is emergency broadcasting, along with the other things like PBS learning media and all the instructional content that goes to the homes of students and goes to the schools. They're still in the phase of trying to really understand and identify which things are to be impacted and non-impacted. They're trying to find interim funding sources. And as you all know, if you use a contingency funding source, that is not meant to be immediate. And so they're identifying, there's the fundraising is going up to kind of bridge them for a period of time until they either totally remove services or they get the money, much like we're faced with a significant drop of funding that we've had, over the past 15 years. We're faced with a situation in KETS of either stopping services or significantly reducing them. And they're in the same situation. And they're kind of finding funds either through fundraisers to temporarily try to have a bridge year or bridge months until the legislative session happens. They are going to put in for additional budget requests, much like we have for KETS to try to restore some of this funding. But the teaching point here is there are consequences to this. And in the next month or two, I'll be able to better identify the consequences either to just public services in general and to education. But I wanted to let you know that the KT board meeting met last Friday, and the finance part committee in particular, which I'm part of and chair, are going through what the exact impacts of that will be going forward to our schools and their homes, and to our schools and to the homes. The Kentucky High School Athletic Association also has a summer meeting every year. Marty attended that for us. Marty, I think the parts that you said that are technology related is, and it's always a big thing in the classification of football, is what metrics do you use to say of your class 1A, 4A, 6A? And typically that's been ADA, but I think they talked about using some other metrics, financial ones.
There are states across the country who use other data metrics to look at the classification system. We're unique in Kentucky because not all of our sports or activities are classed with different classes. Some of our activities and sports are
baseball and basketball.
Single, not no class. So everyone's together. So I think the association is doing a great job of just looking across the country to see what other states are looking at in order to do that better.
Yeah.
I'd also mention, just like with other groups that we heavily participate with, the technology-enabled services that are deeply embedded in that work. It's really important for us all to just know and try to get a handle on with the KHSAA and a tool and a partnership with Arbiter, for example, moving a lot of services to a shared cloud partnership and a shared service, and making sure that all of the athletic directors and school leaders and students who are interacting with those systems can get to them, being able to, and we try to do a good job of helping that be clean as it can be.
I think one of the things that the High School Athletic Association is transitioning from is a lot was homegrown website counting on one person.
That's right.
And they're now moving to more of a shifting and sharing the risk to a cloud-based service, which makes sense. And a lot of, but the looks are different in doing that. So
the workflows are a bit different.
But I would say their services comparatively to other high school athletic associations is very good as far as information they have on the website. And I've seen the other ones that they have out there. And I would say KET and High School Athletic Association, once again, in comparison to other states and the relationship with the Department of Education
and school districts,
is one of the best in the country. Because I talk to my equivalents and they don't have a relationship with their KET equivalent. They don't have any kind of relationship with the High School Athletic Association. So it really is, high five to Kentucky that we do have state agencies that are really working together. And you do that by having members of one organization, members of what you do, just like I'm a member of KET and I'm a member of High School Athletic Association. And so that helps us stay in touch with what they're doing.
And the High School Athletic Association is interesting and awesome in Kentucky because it's led, there are a number of school district superintendents and district leaders and school leaders that lead that organization. Really helps
part of their board. Yeah, they're part of their board. The other thing was esports. I know we have a certain amount of our CIOs that are either coaches or heavily involved with that. I know there was a discussion of, do you really have 2 seasons? Do you have one? And I didn't know. I don't think they landed on anything.
That question went out to the delegate across the state and really came back to continue with what we've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years, which is a fall season and a spring season.
Okay.
So it'll be two different seasons.
Right.
Different schools choose to participate in either one or both. And so most of the titles will remain the same. There's some back and forth on a couple titles that they're still working through, but both seasons will. So for all of our EdTech leaders to be aware, from an esports perspective, those seasons will be both a fall and spring season.
Yeah. And they're constantly looking, do we add a sport? Do we not add a sport? One of the interesting ones is the shot clock to me is if you watch, like college or pro basketball, you understand there's shot clock. And one of the biggest challenges of folks is understanding how to operate the shot clock and really watch it because you got to pay attention.
There's a lot of technology.
There's a lot of technology. So it's trying to find someone that would be reliable to operate it. I think also being a former youth coach will pay attention and not watching the game, but you actually got to keep up with the clock. So there's a technology component of really can you find people that would regularly attend to do it? So they don't say that it's not really the cost of the item. It's finding the people that would be doing it and doing it reliably. Yeah. Yesterday, the Auditor of Public Accounts presented to the Joint Education Legislative Committee on their report of the Kentucky Department of Education. In my view, is the most extensive report that's been done on any state agency, and I looked at them all since 1998. Never have I seen an APA report that looked at every aspect of a state agency since 1998. So it's a 556-page report. The auditor presented it to the the auditor's team presented to the legislature yesterday. You know, it's available on KET. It was a pretty short presentation in comparison to the study that was done. There was a lot of other educational topics that were done ahead of it. It was last on the agenda yesterday, but that really closes the what I call the chapter on the presentation of that report. And obviously, from a OET perspective, while it wasn't mentioned yesterday, and typically in general, auditors don't take time to mention things going well. So that was no change yesterday across any auditors in general. But we know the kind of things that were identified as noteworthy in there. The parts that we'll be working on in our office is with our communications office. As far as for the KD website, so we're going to do much like we've done for the OET website, of modernizing it and updating it and putting it on a healthy data diet. We're going to take a look at doing a lot of things we did in OET through other parts and offices in KD. So that will be one of the to-dos from us from that audit report. Next up is the RFPs that are underway that you may not be aware of, and we weren't aware of this one until extremely recently, so I doubt whether you were aware of it. There's a telehealth RFP that is just for K-12 schools. And this is done by an organization beyond KD, the agency. And the reason I make you aware of it is this could impact you for folks that want to sign up for this service. And so we've been recently asked to provide, and we asked to provide someone on the committee that can evaluate it and make sure they're considering the technology structure within school districts before awarding a contract to someone. And this, we have people that go to, and Lisa Moore and Damon Jackie regularly go to these telehealth conferences on our behalf. This was not mentioned, just so we can try to stay up with something being fielded in school districts. And this was kind of an initiative years ago when they were doing things that did not work within a school environment because they had not considered the school technology environment. So hopefully we can be a good representative on that RFP review committee and make sure whatever they select does work without having to have major changes and alterations in the Kentucky K-12 EdTech environment. But I just want you aware of it. Is a school district can sign up for those telehealth services. And the best I can remember, they are at no cost, but maybe there is a cost to them. But I just want to make sure at least there's a cost that someone at the state level has to pay for it for the school districts that want to take advantage of that service. So I want you to know that's happening. Because that's new news probably to everyone except a few of us that found out about that pretty recently. So let's talk about some significant performance improvements in our GoGuardian environment and in our state level firewall services. And we're going to talk about GoGuardian here for a bit. We've talked about that for a while. Right before school closes, we had about 30 or 40 districts, and we had the agency that had made the transition, not only the DNS transition, but had started loading that on Windows or had loaded on Windows and Mac OS systems. Very highest percentage of districts waited to do. They did the DNS change before the cutoff of 1 July, but they left the summertime to really do the client type of loading for those that were going to that. And during this time frame, we focus in on a couple of things to improve the performance overall. One is the GoGuardian is specifically as it lays on top of Windows and Mac OS systems. We found the extension on the GoGuardian for Chromebooks was not having any kind of noticeable performance issues. And we have 900,000 Chromebooks primarily used by students. We have about 136,000 Windows devices, primarily used by adults. I know there's X number of Windows that are in like labs. I think very few Windows devices are actually one-to-one, but I know that happens. But there's a small percentage overall. And on the Mac OS environment, there's a mixture, obviously, of those adults and students. But so we really focused in on improving the performance. What would it take? And this was a partnership with GoGuardian. Katie, the agency, is a big part of the pilot of this. We try to, as we say, eat our own dog food or drink our own champagne before we ask districts to do it, so we have a good feel for it. So an extensive amount of energy in June and July was spent on improving the performance for the Windows and the Mac OS systems. And so, somebody's raised their hand here.
Neil Arnett.
Okay, so let me get through this, Neil, here, and then I'll definitely take that question. If you meant to raise your hand, we'll definitely.
It was just a high five. It wasn't crazy.
Oh, it was accident. Sorry. Oh, got you, Neil. So we've been with GoGuardian really focused in on, for example, just not the computer itself, but using certain applications that we know are common that adults use from a Windows and Mac OS system. The Office 365 suite, the Google suite of items, the email services that we have out there, that make sure that's a good experience. So there's been a big focus on that. But also we noticed there was something going on, funky going on, that was also affecting performance. And so we were trying to identify those two items before school began. And obviously that is the time that you identify performance issues or you try something new. You don't wait till the first week of school, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, about not doing the initial weeks of school a major upgrade of anything, especially the first week of school as you're going down that path. So our results of the 19.6 and OET, and we've done our staff, and our staff knows that we're one of the main pilots to, can you go to a link pretty quickly when you're within an email? When your computer goes to sleep or initially starting up, does it get back to where it needs to be fairly quickly? Or does it just, in the Mac OS side, was it jamming up to the point you couldn't use it without doing a reboot? So we wanted to make sure that was a good experience, out of the starting gate. So from our point of view, is the 19.6 application, and it's consistent. The client version is consistent for the Windows and Mac OS. The 1.19.6 is a very good one and makes a significant improvement. So if you've not loaded that yet, and that's why we have one of our Go Soapbox questions is, have you loaded that yet? The dates it's been pretty recent that those dates have been released. I think the 7th of August for the Windows side and the 11th for the Mac OS side. But those will make significant improvements in both those. And once again, I appreciate all those that have been all hands on deck, including GoGuardian, that was really focused in on that. I could tell their company was there. They've also been wonderful about making sure they were here the first day of school for us here in Kentucky. They were actually on site. They have extended operational hours, and I know the catch engineers have made you aware of the extended operational hours or support hours that they can help, or open a support ticket. So one of our questions was, and we have two questions related to this one. One is, have you, and I'd ask you to take a look at all of our questions here that we're asking and respond to. It's very important to help us get a feel for magnitude. And anytime you're kind of positioned like myself or district any size, you can't tell if it's 1% issue or a 50% or 99%. And if you're, and I also ask folks, if you're having a good experience, respond with that as well. And just not the ones that are having a bad experience, to give us a proper perspective. Now, I see the poll question popped up. Were those just, were those popping up early?
So folks were having trouble using the polls feature inside of Teams. So I just tried to bump them again to reopen the polls so folks could respond to.
Okay. So the preliminary results that I see so far, and I'll answer because we have seen, just so you know, a significant and overwhelming improvement in performance of the loading those on Katie the agency and OET machines. A significant and overwhelming improvement. And there may be X number of you that we're not having any experience at all, but we have noticed a significant improvement of it. So I'm kind of interested in those that, first of all, the percentage that have. And so it looks like the initial response is like over 70% have not loaded that and 30% have. So for the 30% that have, we've asked them, can you respond to it? And so, like so far 31%, well, it changes constantly here, like 30% said.
Yeah, so David, of the folks who have installed the new version, 59% are reporting that it's improved and better experience.
Yeah, and 29% didn't really have a noticeable issue before. And so with 12%, so as long as you're on 19.6, and make sure when you answer that you're on 19.6, really be identifying it's related to GoGuardian, what that specific major issue is. And as one of the things is what is that? So just don't say it, but call the help desk and identify what that is so that can be investigated. But that is a substantial change. And I've noticed, here in KD agency, because I've just heard mainly just positives, and we're looking for the negatives too, that this has made a significant difference out there. I also want to point out, as we're talking about this topic, and this is an important one, and it relates to the state law that was put in place many years ago in 1998 that is still really relevant today. And it was a big part of writing that law and putting that law and regulation in place. So every district by the 1998 cyber safety and security perspective is there to have an internet content management system in place that does filtering, but also the tracking. Tracking is specifically mentioned in the law. So it's just not your filtering. It's just as important, equally important to track. And there's two reasons for that. And I'll just give you an example. You can have in a school building the doors locked, but if you don't have cameras on the outside, it really can't tell you, did you have someone that tried to get in, or did you have someone that broke in, and who that someone is. And it also helps protect the people doing the right things. If you were falsely accused of doing something, those laws can really say, hey, listen, I didn't do X, Y, and Z. Just like a security camera, you're accused of breaking into some place, and the security camera shows you did not do that. That was not you. Tracking is both helps, I think, as a deterrent for folks that may be considering doing something. Because we would hear during the years, well, I went to this site and it just popped up, and but you can see that person just not only went to an inappropriate site, they spent an inordinate amount of time there, and you can see all the links they were going there. It wasn't accidental. They bumped into anything. They stayed and squatted for quite a bit and going to some lots of places that they shouldn't go to. And you really could see it wasn't an accident what they were doing. At the same time, if someone's falsely accused of going to some place on the internet, then it really gives them the backing of, hey, listen, see, I didn't go there with the school issued computer and with over the school issued internet or K-12 internet services. So it really helps both ways. And so I mentioned it in this context. I know X number of districts, and I understand why, remove the client from the Windows and the Mac OS computers in your districts. And I'm telling you, that needs to be really a very temporary approach, not a long-term approach. Because first of all, from a filtering point of view, any computer taking off your school campus, even though you're doing DNS filtering, it no longer filters beyond your school campus from their homes and other places. And so obviously that means for adults, but if you have students that are taking Windows or Mac OS systems beyond the school campus, that means you're not meeting the SIPA requirements. That's a E-rate funding requirement. So let's talk about the adults. While SIPA, the federal law, does not require filtering beyond the school campus with school issued devices, our state law does require it. So anything that was state issued, no matter where it's at, is to be used for educational purposes only. And so the filtering should be used whether they're on the campus or not, but also the tracking as well. And obviously, if you only use DNS versus the client on the Windows and the Mac OS systems, there is no tracking on the school campus or beyond the school campus for adults or students. And so for those that are still on version 17 something of GoGuardian, and you've removed the client from the Windows and the Mac OS systems, we've spent an enormous amount of time and energy taking a look at a client that is a good, well performing, does not degrade or substantially stop a district from being able to do things. And so the teaching point here is we have a very high percentage that do not have a modern version, may have a very older one, which is one thing. My bigger concern is you have something that is not doing the filtering it should be doing beyond the school campus, nor the tracking it's supposed to be doing on the school campus and beyond the school at campus with school issued or district issued devices. And so I understand in there's certain situations you had to remove the clients, but now that the client has had substantial, significant improvements, it's time to relook at that and put that on. So I'll let anyone else that wants to make a comment about that comment about it. I know Matt Jury, you want to make, or anyone else has been heavily involved in that effort.
No, I think you did a great job covering it. We've seen a lot of significant improvements. A ton of work has gone on behind the scenes with our staff and GoGuardian working together to improve their product and get it to a point where we believe it's stable and it'll be a great experience for students and teachers and staff and everybody in the school district. So we're hoping that you're seeing those same benefits from 19.6. It looks like the poll indicates that, so that's that looks really positive.
Yeah. And we'll continue to try and make that better. So it's not like this is it, is we'll keep refine that. And so, and by the way, we have I do want to give a high five to Jody Rose, who played the product manager role for this initiative. We have moved off the project phase around to the ongoing operational phase. So the reason Jody's not speaking up, although he's always, able to speak up since he was so involved with this, is we transition projects over to ongoing services. And even though it may not be 100% perfect yet, there's a phase where you transfer forward onto ongoing service. And so, Jody, I do want to thank you very publicly for the outstanding role that you played as product manager, along with your other full-time job you had as KE for Region 1. So thank you, and a job well done. And a job well done by everyone that played a role in that project phase of it. But now it has shifted over to Matt Jury and his team to run with it. And so, but always offer our field staff an opportunity to speak up as well. I know we did a polling. Chuck Austin, when we did our OET leadership team meeting yesterday, he was doing a polling of this kind of question before we had today of his feedback so far from districts. And so it was very similar to what I've just shared with you. Number two, related to the performance, is not related to GoGuardian, but it just felt like there was something else going on that was significantly impacting the response rates. And I would say this goes in the category of no good deed goes unpunished. It's something I often tell you. My mom tells me that you're trying to do a good deed, but there's sometimes a punishment for it. And I would say, just in general, a lot of technology systems and those that are very capable in running them really have a difficult time understanding the magnitude when you're doing something to scale of something you do on the performance, either on the computer or on the network, the internet network within a school building or statewide. It is really difficult to measure this. If you want to spend any time around me, I'm a magnitude person. I'm always trying to get a feel for, even if it's a swag, it's 90% broke. Is it 50? Don't use the word some or many, because that's fairly meaningless. It's very meaningless. So give a more specific kind of thing of what's happening. So back in May, we put a filter with good intentions on the state firewall of trying to add another level of difficulty for, and I'll just say specifically, if someone was trying to defeat the internet content management system, another level of difficulty for them to get to inappropriate content. And that may be a 1%, a 1%, a 1% probability. So if you have someone intentionally trying to defeat a firewall, whether it be a student or adult, trying to make it difficult for them to get inappropriate contact. So there's a point where you get put so many filters on something. If folks don't understand how even their own filter works, let alone how it interacts with other filters, that you can have a very degrading performance overall. And not understanding you have that, at least initially. And I always just say too, nearly every middle school and high school student has a smartphone with internet access, their own private internet access, and there's sites they can get to anyway if they really want to get to them. And so there was a day to where, maybe they could really only get on the internet and go to places in the school building. But now with, I wouldn't say it's close to 100% despite socioeconomic level, nearly every middle schooler and high schooler has their own smartphone with their own private internet service. So part of it is you put another layer of filtering on top of something for the 1%, a 1%, a 1%, a 1% situation where it degrades something significantly for the 99%, 99.9%. And we actually found this situation did. We found something that significantly, with these firewalls, had slowed down the internet response rate of school districts. I know it's compounding what we're running into with the GoGuardian client, but we noticed a significant and immediate improvement once we removed that, and we removed that fairly quickly. And so the intention is to leave that off for the foreseeable future. I have no pressing need to put that in place. And as I told our staff, I will have to have significant amount of justification of its true need beyond a 1%, a 1%, a 1% situation, and a true understanding of the impact with both our vendor provider and everyone else of what is the consequence, the negative consequence when you do this to scale that you may not do in a perfect environment when you're testing it. And so we're going to spend some more time and energy on it. Matt, I don't know if Matt, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to this part of the discussion.
No, the only thing I would add is that, like David said, you can have 1,000 locks on the doors. You can provide a whole bunch of extra layers of security. Sometimes those make things more difficult than they need to be. Sometimes they're all for very good reasons. And we're going to have to circle back on this and have some long conversations about anything that we may re-enable in the future. We think that strategically we understand why they wanted to turn that on, but it caused some issues that we did not foresee that came to light right before school started. So that's why we had it shut back off.
And thankfully, we found it before school started. As I say, our timing in general, and I would say anybody looking to make a change to anything on the network, I'm talking to our vendor partners that are joining, anybody else, the worst time to do it is at the beginning of school. July, August. I can remember when COVID first hit, Julian Tackett, who was the commissioner of High School Lake Association, put out, and he was, jokingly at the time, because even when it was out during when COVID first hit, there was nobody out on the roads. And he says, do all the construction now. Get it done now. Now is the time to do construction. In June and July is the time to do construction or concepts. It is not the first week, 2 weeks of school, month of school, first 2 months of school. And so we're going to do some work on better make sure our vendor partners understand exactly when schools start. That is, and on the KD website, by the way, that's for our staff as well. And that's for not our vendor partners, but your subs need to be aware of when school starts. And as you're playing around trying to do things that improve the experience for schools, keep in mind you may not understand the statewide consequences of doing it for one district across the entire state. So, Matt, this probably tops pretty good lead into last Thursday. So I'll let you talk about last Thursday.
Yeah. So as David's example, so last Thursday we had an issue where we've got a couple lingering circuit connectivity things to resolve stemming from the project when we migrated over to Zayo. A couple of things to clean up. Through that cleanup effort, there was a circuit that we're trying to address in Eastern Kentucky that has absolutely nothing to do with the school district. But it's just a technical problem we're trying to solve. And the vendor, to try not to impact production traffic, created a totally separate internet connection to test. But they made an error in plugging it into part of our production network, which caused a bunch of havoc. So we had about a 5-minute outage, then we had about a 15-minute outage, and we had about a 45-minute outage before we could get it all straightened out. We have enabled some protocols to keep that from ever happening again, should somebody do something like that in the future. But we're working with Zayo and everybody else not to touch anything. There's nothing more important right now to me than providing you with a stable, baked in, reliable network throughout the start of school and throughout the school year. So anything that we have on the radar, just this morning, I met with a team of people that were proposing us to make a change in two districts, one tonight and one tomorrow, that is not something that's impacting the district. It's nothing that they see. It probably has a 99% success rate that there will never be a problem in the change that we're making, but that 1% is not worth it to me right now. And I know it's not worth it to David or anybody else here in this organization. So we're not going to do things like that. I told them we don't want to talk about that until probably the middle of September. Anything that we can avoid doing to the network right now, we are going to avoid doing it. Anything that we have to do to resolve an issue that's a performance related problem, we will do those things. But anything that we can schedule and push off to another time, we want to avoid that at all costs at the beginning of school. So we apologize for that last week. We have put a lot of safeguards in place to keep it from ever happening again. But this is top of our mind as we go about the beginning of the school year.
And this is why change management is so important. If folks in their world or their sliver of expertise, they say, well, this is no big deal if I do this, and not understanding all the other moving parts that it interacts with. And that's why change management, which means, hey, listen, we're looking at doing something on this date. It's not a way for you to say no to you, but it's a way to say, hey, listen, I got to make everyone else aware of this. Is there any other impact to what's going on? Because you may think, or your technician may think, and we're talking about the technology companies, hey, listen, this will have no big impact. Well, that's a blind spot for them. I mean, it's kryptonite when they take a look at stuff and not understanding the consequences this could have, but also, as Matt's saying, the timing of it, is you don't do this when you have the highest percentage of school districts opening school. You just don't do that. And so for our vendor partners that are on here, you got to talk to your subs. You got to talk to all the folks that you work with about, just get a better feel for the beginning of school. You got to do this during, June and July is when you start testing this stuff out. But you also let people where you're doing it. And this is for our staff too, is you got to make change management, pick where that you're doing it on a bigger scale versus you're just doing it. And so this is I'm talking to not just really our districts here, because this wasn't really a district issue. This was a, OET and vendor partner issue. So, but there were consequences to that, and we're, taking steps now. But it'll be a constant battle, Matt, with this change management. It's constant where folks say, oh, it won't make that big a difference, and they're just a total blind spot for them. And so, we've held off, and we'll be very firm on, unless there is a catastrophe of something that needs an immediate change, but besides that, we're going to slow that way down or stop it of any kind of major changes. And last Thursday is a great example of change management not happening at the way it needs to happen, with all the right people informed and just the wrong timing. The intentions were good. I understand the intentions were good, but we got to get better change management and the right timing.
Yep.
Next up is Dee Dee Connor with Data Systems. Dee Dee, or
I'm here.
Okay, good.
I caught you at the very end.
Okay.
Just a quick update today. I wanted to let everybody know the school report card, the portal that ANLAR creates for data review and data entry is now open. It's open for 3 domains. Safety actually closes tomorrow, but educational opportunity and the educational opportunity and the overview is open now, and it will stay open for about 5 weeks before we move forward with a partial public release in early October. So that's kind of where we are with that now. Do kind of watch that if you have anything to do with it. There's also a school profile date. That's a school profile report is required to be posted in the local board office by October 1 of every year. So if you're involved in that, or if you just want to help people remember, we are sending out information to school report card contacts, DACs, and then we try to include some messaging in the superintendent messages. Used to be the superintendent got the first message first, but just the timing of that hasn't allowed us to do that this year. So we are communicating with both parties though. I do want to just remind you that we do have the Social Security removal tool open now to districts. So I'm not sure if we've had any districts take advantage of that. We do have a poll question on that. So I know from KDE that was significant when we did that reduction. So I hope you are finding some advantages of being able to use that tool too. That will be something that we just, keep in mind. That's there. It is a best practice when you're thinking security around Infinite Campus. This is a perfect time of year to think around those lines. There's tools in the Infinite system that let you know who has access to what. As roles change, as people leave, it's a great opportunity to take a look and make sure people don't have access that they either shouldn't have or no longer need, or that they left, and clean those up a little bit. We also are very dependent on communication to the right people, and you will set those up in the people role manager application. So if you do have updates and you look at open house and your names are out of date, please, and many of you are the WAPOCs who make those changes, so we appreciate your work on that too. We do have some Infinite Campus training coming up the week of September 22nd, the user group training. So if you have new folks or folks you may think would benefit from that training, Lisa DeGuerra sets those up, and they're set out regionally. So there's 5 different locations. Those are on the Cases training page, so take a look for that information. One last reminder real quick, and that is e-transcripts. The end of August 30th is the last day to get a free transcript for graduates in 2025 graduates. So help your folks locally remember to release all their transcripts. Transcripts have to have the graduation code and a final and a graduation date for the colleges to consider them final. So take advantage of the free transcripts while you can. The only other thing we had a question for is about the privacy security training of the U.S. Department of Education. This is just more of a reminder to you all that training is available. We have it linked to our privacy and security pages. If you're just looking for something that you can get out to new folks, the FERPA 101 type of training is great. Data ethics training is great. We use it with our own staff here in Frankfurt, and sometimes it's just hard to create something or find time to do it. But if you can push that out to some of the new folks, that gives them the kind of foundational knowledge of what they need to be considering when handling education data. So that's all I have, David.
Thanks, Dee Dee. I do encourage folks to, even if some of the poll questions that have gone, these are so valuable to us. In a lot of different ways we share, as you all know, is after in the summary that we send of the previous month, we share these results, and it gives you a feeling for magnitude and size. So one thing I want to say is just going back to the removing those Social Security numbers in our cybersecurity health check, and Bob Hackworth knows this. We're more prominently talking about healthy data diet, and healthy data diet means taking away old data off systems that would be tough to justify why you still have them on there. And if you understand the concern about that, talk to power school districts who had Social Security numbers of students that had long graduated. You cannot justify to the parent or to anyone why you have Social Security numbers of students of long, long ago. And so that is what I would call a right-hand layup, as simple as you can get. Take off the old stuff that you can't justify, there's nothing there being on there. And this tool obviously allows you to do that. And you can make calls about other data, but that one is probably the simplest one to put out there. So in our Kentucky Board of Education report, into our commission report, I'm talking about that, what we're doing at the KD level and the tools that we're making available to school districts. And so you need to consider the same thing when you're talking, in the cybersecurity health check with your superintendent and board about this being one of the strategies to remove you being such a valuable target. And if you are hit, remove the extensiveness of the damage if they get inside your systems.
David, I know it's early as the Social Security number removal tool has been launched. I know Dee Dee, we're working through what that looks like. It looks like 1 or 2 folks have used it already to remove some Social Security numbers. But again, it's early. It's safe to bet we're going to continue to ask this question over the next several months throughout the state, just to try to get a handle on more folks using it. Is that safe to say?
That's safe. David, I think that's great. I mean, just kind of for magnitude at the state level, and if you didn't hear this last month, we were able to remove 3.6 million Social Security numbers. We have Social Security numbers that go back all the way to 2007. That takes them out of state addition, but that's how many Social Security numbers are out there in all the systems statewide. because those are still in your district edition systems. While you may not want to get rid of the ones that are for high school students because of the Kia and no pass, no drive until we can get that changed. Older students that have graduated, been gone for a certain period of time, then those are ones that are, just reduce your amount of risk that you still have in your systems.
And we've also had productive discussions with Kentucky Stats about the reduction of them using the full 9-digit Social Security number. We're working on other state agencies and we're working our own self in-house with other parts of the Department of Education, but other state agencies to remove the dependency on using Social Security numbers, given they're so student Social Security numbers in particular, given they're so valuable and damaging, valuable to cyber criminals and damaging to the futures of students once they graduate, of trying to get credit cards or get a loan, because it's been damaged ahead of time by cyber criminals using their Social Security number. Infinite Campus related, I just know I'm looking through Chuck's notes. Chuck, I'm taking a look at some of the notes that I know the field staff are using that you've created to talk with districts with, that maybe our vendor partners and our CATS partners and even our OET staff are not aware that you put out. So I'm going to cover a couple of those items in here. Jump in whenever you want to here, Chuck. Is Infinite Campus, just a reminder, the payment was due on the 15th. And the K would be getting with you. On the Q side is the upcoming cohorts, and Chuck talked extensively last month, and it's in the summary notes about our cohort 1 and early adopters. But upcoming cohorts for the Qs, Kentucky User Experience, begins in October 2025. We're going to have 5 cohorts. We've extended it from 4 to 5. You've talked about that, and you do a good job in your notes of giving, which I know the field staff here are giving the specific dates, but we got the next one coming up. Cohort 2 is in October, and 3 starts in January, and 4 in April, and 5 in June. So there'll be, pretty rapid fire for rapid identity the next few months, right, Chuck?
Absolutely.
After I talked about the Go Guardian topic intensively on here, we, around this time last year, talked about the intention of no longer paying for the antivirus software, primarily for the Windows computers. Don't have to worry about the Chromebooks or really the Mac OS devices, but primarily for the Windows devices. We have 136,000 of the 1.1 million, but that percentage drops every year. The percentage of overall devices we have that require a third-party antivirus, and part of the reason we're looking at that is the existing stuff that comes with Microsoft, the Defender. Is that good enough now? Can you go to other organizations and acquire theirs? You can stay with Trellix and require theirs, but you have to use your local funding source, given our funding situation. This is one of the items we identified. But we've also produced, so if you've not already moved on it over a year, some recommendations for you to consider as you move forward. So I know the field staff are making folks aware of that. We've also selected, as part of the Qs initiative, is an IP service. That was part of it. It was in Active Directory, but as we were moving away from Active Directory, we had to do, one part was rapid identity, the other part was this IP services. And we're doing that through Volta, the info blocks. We're making sure, I know we're having discussions, make sure anybody else doing anything with DNS, it works with it. It doesn't interfere with that putting in place. And so there's planning stages. We're in the planning stages of that. And I know the KEs are going over, CATS engineers, the details of that planning stages of, hardware deployment and processes and other parts here. And I'm not going to cover those. I'll share those for the regional meeting, but more so for our staff and our vendor partners understand what's going on in districts. Our data security presentation, Bob, I'm still in the final stages of looking. I appreciate the good work you've done through the course of the year, much like I gave high fives at Jody's. Just an outstanding job of helping districts throughout the year. You did a really good job of capturing what happened over the past year, the improvements that we've made, and where we need to go in the future. I appreciate what you put together with that. And I'll have those. I was, reading through it again last night, making some edits. With Healthy Data Diet being added, sprinkled pretty heavily throughout that, including the kind we just talked to with Infinite Campus. Bob, I know you had some questions that you wanted some feedback on, but I'll give you a chance. And I know that the KEs are going over this with districts, but some last words here and kind of go over the chat questions that we have.
You bet.
Got a couple of questions there in the poll, and the first one is really more, well, they're all about the districts, but have you shared your cybersecurity health check at your local Board of Education meeting yet? Because that time is drawing nigh. We're getting ours ready to go. Sometimes, we get ours submitted all the way back in June. This year, it's going into August ourselves. You don't have to wait till August. Just a heads up for that. You can submit it almost any time prior to August. But August is, of course, the deadline. So we want you to make sure you hit that. And if you have any questions, if you haven't submitted yours yet and you want to run some questions by me, feel free. I've done that a couple of times. We have 2 more poll questions, really focused on MFA. And as we're rolling out queues and everything, MFA continues to kind of stay at the top of ways that we protect our accounts. And ever since Thanksgiving of last year, we've seen MFA become under attack by cyber criminals more than it has in forever. Any kind of MFA is still great, but I want to try to get a good handle on what most of our adults out in K-12 are using. And so we've got a couple of poll questions here. What percentage of your staff are refusing to use an authenticator app that goes on their personal phone because they're worried that it'll make them vulnerable to like an open records request or something like that? It's not accurate that would cause them to have to share their phone or share the contents of it. But I want to see, what percentage you guys think of your folks believe that it does. And that might prompt me to go ahead and release some guidance on that. I worked with our legal team. Of course, you would want to talk to your legal team as well. District legal folks sometimes have little different perspectives on that. And then the next one, just how many of your staff across your district are still using SMS prompts for MFA? Again, it's way better than no MFA at all, but we want to kind of get a sense of how big the footprint is there for that, and do our best to kind of move into a more phishing resistant form of MFA like an authenticator app. Trying to get back down to them. Looks like we've got most folks having submitted their cybersecurity health check. We still have 10 or more that have not yet. I have confidence that they will. Like a low number so far. I believe that it makes their phones open to records requests or other privacy concerns. So that makes me pretty happy on that. So definitely keep on answering those polls if you haven't already. And like David said, we actually use this data. It means a lot to us. Thank you, David.
Welcome. Our digital readiness survey is windowed open on July 15th, closes on the September 15th. This is very important data. Just presented to our Kentucky Board of Education with our legislative session getting ready to start in January. It'll be used for that extensively, along with a variety of other things that we point people to constantly. It was used for the Auditor of Public Accounts report. We pointed it to the digital readiness that we have for every district, and cumulatively, very valuable information. So I appreciate the annual effort to update that information. And your KE is going through, we have a new landing page, and the KE will provide you the details. It's providing districts even for our staff and our vendor partners of how to enter that on there. And if you're not familiar with the digital readiness survey, you can go on the OET portion of the website and even open house, and we have the data for every district, and you can get cumulative data for the state for a large variety of education technology categories. New on here, Marty, I'm going to let you speak about it, the Speak Up cohort for 25 and 26.
Yeah, thank you. So, put another exclamation point on how important the digital readiness work is for us, but we also not just the inventory side of digital readiness and not just the programmatic questions that you as our EdTech leaders participate in, but also adding student voice and teacher voice into how, not just the technologies that we have, but how we're using them and how we're leveraging technologies to learn and lead in our schools. We have our Speak Up cohort again for the 25-26 school year. Last year, we had fantastic results. We had about 18 to 20 school districts participate in that survey. This is a survey that you offer to your students and to your teachers, and some districts are also offering to families. Ben Maynard leads this work for us, and I want to give a high five and shout out to Ben in framing it as a network improvement community. Also, this is worked into our EdTech plans, and this is a part of our EdTech planning template to get engaged student voice in the digital readiness work. So this year's cohort that we're seeking, we would love to get 25 to 30 districts participating. And keep in mind, this is not just you doing something locally. This is also working with other districts to see, how your students are responding, frequency of use, leveraging technologies, making sure that what we're after and what we want is actually being achieved from student usage perspective and teacher usage. So this year we have an opportunity for a new and improved Kentucky custom survey, which is awesome. Our districts who participated last year get great feedback there. So working with Project Tomorrow, we'll have Kentucky customized survey, which we're super excited about. It's shorter. It's more aligned to what we're after here in Kentucky. It's more aligned to the digital readiness survey. It's more aligned to our EdTech plans. And so that's super awesome. There is no cost. Okay, so it's free for everyone to participate. In fact, this year, working with the Council for Chief State School Officers, CCSSO, and the Balmer Foundation, we have a little bit of grant money to work statewide and not just distributing and administering the survey, but then when we get results back, being able to analyze the survey results and really move the needle and what we're offering across the state in our school districts. So it's open to all school districts. The window to administer, we're shooting for the middle of September all the way through Thanksgiving. And so then we're looking at results coming in, data visualizations to really interact with, to provide great insight. So if you'd love to participate, please work with your Ketz field staff, your KE, and Ben Maynard will be leading that work, as I mentioned. And so, again, we're looking for 25 to 30 school districts. The effort is it's a commitment, but the results greatly outweigh the effort.
I go back, and there was someone named Charlotte Wright used for Anderson County, and the reason she liked to collect this kind of data is it helped her with her board of the money they wanted to spend or needed to have for education technology services. And so this is a win-win for the district and also for the state. We use this in our infographic that is presented to a large variety of offices, including the organizations and to the legislature, to our board. And we point a lot of folks to it because it gives real life feedback from a teacher, a K-12 adult perspective, from a student perspective, and even from a home perspective of education technology. It really gives meaning to it beyond just some raw numbers. And so it is a win for the district and help you justify where we're going. It helps you improve too. You can identify areas that are not going so well that you need to address and be very, very open about this. So I appreciate that connection. We used to have Bright Bites. Bright Bites got acquired by Google, and then Google really didn't
Hasn't done anything with
do anything with it. So we had to move on to another tool to do that. I did notice that I skipped over something. I'll continue here about the U.S. Department of Education announced that the release of the $87 million that they had previously approved, but they were holding up. And our big winners of that are digital learning coaches, our STLP coach stipends, and our school technology stipends. And so we have a good amount of districts that use it for that purpose. And so that's good news that money has been released. School report card access, Didi, and you don't have to go into depth with this one, but two things I noticed on here is the school website URLs being collected here I'm assuming that is because of the assessment and accountability needed being on the front page of the website. Is that why this is being collected?
Yes, the information gets collected in the tool, but so that it'll display. We have a district level. We have district URLs. We just don't have school level. So the school level gets entered here so that it can display on the landing pages for each of the schools.
Okay.
So just a hyperlink to the school's webpage, basically
Yeah.
from
Yes,
the.
that's all. There's some other ones within in the collector that go on the school profile report. That's if you have more information about a certain
program.
area, like world languages program, any of those type of school profile type of program, arts, humanities, those type of things. If it's there, then you can add that. If not, people just enter their school webpage and don't have a special designated page for that area.
And I see on here we're updating the student device ratio.
Yes, it is on there.
So
That's a Ben one, but yes, that's a new calculation that wasn't on there before, but it was a miss. It's required by a regulation that it be on there doesn't say what level, so it will only be out there as a school level.
Yeah, and so this has not been displayed for a couple of years at the school level. Obviously, in our digital readiness work, we collect the device count at a district level. But importantly, we're rolling that up. You are rolling that up locally from school level to district. And so ideally, best case scenario, when you do your district level inventory, you're handing to school leaders before they input at the school level. You're handing through and checking through a couple of different mechanisms that you have available to you, the device counts at the school level so that they display accurately and correctly.
Yeah, and there's an easy way to check this year. If you've got access to school report card, and all the CIOs should have access. We defaulted you to have automatic access where you don't have to do anything to get that. In the collection tool, there's a place to go where you can just go and see the access to technology, and you can download a report to see what has been entered by all your schools.
Thanks. The next item hit on briefly is the technology activity report that we get through Munis. Once again, this data is used and really should be a byproduct of your normal entering financial spending within a district. It does give Kentucky the best grasp on technology spending from a variety of funding sources, from the state, from the local, from the federal. That go to education technology. That information is presented to the board, which is required by law for us to present that to them. Particularly helps us out with calculating the finances needed, the unmet need or the unmet need put in place. But it's used for a variety of other things, including the Auditor of Public Accounts took a close look at that one. And we slimmed it down from, can't remember how many commodity codes we had. It seems like it was over 100 and now to 14 to simplify that. There is a reminder for folks that even for our staff that there is instead of spooling the report online, they can be generated through a spreadsheet, and the district can work through the KE to get that information in that format. We're changing. We had something many years ago called KEN, the Kentucky Education Network. It hasn't been called that for quite some time. And so we got to try, even for our own staff, to stop calling stuff KEN. Instead, it's NGKI, the Next Generation Kentucky Internet. So I say that in this context is, there's a NGKI, they call One Call database, and we're going to be changing it from the KEN update, including the morning updates of the Internet status report will not be the KEN status report, it'll be the NGKI status report. But just need to update your information that's in this database, no matter what it's called. To make sure that you're appropriately contacted. Chuck, is there on your beginning a year of to-dos, are there any that stand out to you? I like the one you had at number 1. Please notify the KIT service desk if you have a known planned power outage, because much like we always try to get better at notifying you all of something you may not be aware of, is notify us too, because that pops up, oh, there's a power outage. And if you knew that ahead of time, it doesn't send all these alarms up with our providers, with our team to investigate it. We know ahead of time that there's a power outage. Also, if you're going to have intentions to relocate your internet, your KD Internet Hub site from like a high school or district office to another location. We need a lot of advanced heads up about you're going to do that. Just a brief reminder, especially for those folks that are new. Those folks are fairly new, or just a reminder about our kids' contracts. There are certain things that are required the districts use, contracts they use, and products they use, no matter the purchasing mechanism, whether it be federal, state, or local. But there's a very high percentage. You have a wide variety of opportunities to select, and there may just be some standards, technical standards or design standards you have to follow in doing that. Just a reminder. Chuck, is there any more out of that top 10 that you like that you identify? I think it was 10. Oh, it was 11. That you think is worthy of making folks aware of?
Well, I don't know, David. I want to pull one out specifically, but I do want to say this now that I have the mic. You know, as I've gotten older, I've grown to really appreciate a season of life that I call blessed chaos. And I use that term a lot because I think we've all watched and experienced possibly being that late 20, 30-something age. Both parents are working full time. You have kids. You're a homeowner. You've got vehicles. And literally you feel like your hair's on fire 7 days a week, 24/7, with all the responsibilities and the going and the picking up and the taking. And it's just a crazy season in life. So I think we've all associated with that. Well, here's what I'm going to say. You know, our EdTech community, and today's webcast is a great example of this. We've all been in what I would call a season of blessed chaos for about the last 3 years. Okay. So, you know, the agenda that David's reading from, for those that are new CIOs, obviously our field services team works really hard on a monthly basis to collaborate on a consistent agenda that they use at our regional meetings, which we recognize happen at different times throughout the month. We know there's already been a couple of them that happened last week. We've got more that are coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So obviously, every one of our EdTech leaders is going to receive a copy of this. It's primarily going to be, you know, leading the discussion points at the regional meetings. But the one thing I just do want to point out is there's a lot going on. And there's a lot that local districts, even here at the state level with an OET, that we're all trying to keep up with and balance at the same time in this season of blessed chaos. There's a lot of these things that we've talked about and really didn't go into detail today that are really hard and are requiring a lot of time, a lot of precision, a lot of thoroughness, and a lot of effort, all while school is starting at the same time. It's been a super busy summer. And David, I just bring this up because obviously there's things on this agenda that are super important that we want to make sure that districts stay out in front of. There's things on this agenda that we try and provide the assist. You know, in the section that you're reading from right now, that beginning of year section is just some reminders from some of our new CIOs that there are things that are statutorily or regulatory required we got to keep up with. There's opportunities that we're doing to improve the learning environment that we're in the middle of. It's all hard, but it's all necessary, and it is a season of blessed chaos. So I just wanted to say that instead of pulling just one thing out. Okay.
Well, thanks, Chuck. I'll for our staff, because they don't necessarily see this, or our vendor partners, I'm just going to go over a couple other things that you had on there.
Sure.
The surplus requirements. So our staff goes over with districts of how they surplus things, how they do small purchases, and the regulations behind that. And calling the help desk when they're getting their KD Web app set up, like, are you the WEPOC? Getting your E-rate EPC portal account set up, so we make sure we remind them of that. We send some E-rate information to them about the things that have been identified and approved, not approved, the time frames of it. Also, we want to make sure that districts have been placed on the correct state and regional distribution lists and drive shares. And so that's a part that we do. And this is mainly for our staff and our vendor partners, but for our new CIOs. We sit down with this, you know, we encourage them to sit down with their CFO and get familiar with the commodity codes that are used. So this data is entered in correctly, and reread the current technology plan and take note of expectations for the year and keep it up to date. And you give some more details about wave 7 of E-rate, you know, issued around August 14th, and roughly 85% of the FRNs have been decided upon. And then you talk about a review if you get one of these reviews, the PIA reviews. And so they give guidance, our field staff gives guidance to districts and in that category. Also a reminder, and I do want to give a plug for CAS, the Kentucky Association for School Technology. And Janice, if you can make sure you put this on our calendars, the OT leadership team, the save dates of October 24th, 2025 will be their fall event. And of course, the main event is in March 11 through 13 in Louisville. Where is the October event? Is it going to be in Lexington? Anyone from CAS be aware of that? It's been held, the fall event's been, yeah. So I'm assuming it's
Central Bank Center.
Central Bank Center. Okay, so I'm assuming it's there. That wasn't on the note here, but I'm assuming that's it. A lesson learned. I do learn some stuff from this. Reading your stuff, Chuck. For all of us, the Tyler email system. There's been a change that certain things of folks expecting email doesn't no longer, they're not getting it. So there's certain change that have to do with their email system in Microsoft Office 365 or Gmail, so it doesn't block the Munis emails. And so that was a little lesson learned, because I would heard something in the past, and it makes sense to me when I heard something from the commissioner. I think it was more related to this than it was with GoGuardian. And so I think this corrects it of certain folks not getting certain communication. And I know Paul Shoemaker will be interested in the new test. Pearson has made updates for a test nav application for all operating systems over the summer. And the new test nav app needs to be updated prior to any practice tests or test activities by the district. And the new version is 8.25. There's also changes to the Chromebook version as well. So some good information there. And then you also cover some stuff about STLP, which I won't go into the rubrics of that and how to get recognized, the computer science pathway certifications. And I know Sean's interested in that. And this is it for our staff and our vendor partners. And some new opportunities that exist and continue to emerge for computer science and engineering students, certificates for additive manufacturing at Somerset Community and Technical College. The school library media updates. Make sure all your schools have virtual library access. This will be the last year that we can fund that, and so it will go back to because the federal funds are starting to run out. And unless we get additional budget requests, by the way, then there's no way that's going to be maintained by us to keep on purchasing it. And so you have to go back to finding local funds or do without after this school year. And digital learning updates, and I see Laura on here, is make sure you connect with your digital learning coaches on a variety of things within the district. The Teach Meet events, I heard about those, Laura, were excellent and well attended. Sorry I couldn't make the Porter Elementary event. I was scheduled to be out of state on that day, but I'm assuming the Porter Panthers did pretty good while you were there, right, Laura?
They did, and it's actually going to be there again next year, so you can put that one on your calendar.
There we go. A
year in advance.
And check out the digital learning calendar on the website for the regional meeting. So I know that goes, and so that's happening with our field staff. As Chuck says, Marty is in that full phase of his life, Chuck, and he was in here, Chuck, you're chuckling. So, and I can remember being in that full phase, and my daughter is in the full phase. They have 3 children, 2 dogs, 2 cats, and an iguana, and 2 full-time jobs. And it's, I remember going through it. But and it somehow made it through at the other side of, but it is like that beginning of the school year. So we always, and I know our field staff does a good job making our OET staff aware of the constant motion that's happening in districts and this huge plate of things that districts have going on. When we think, well, just do this one thing, when there's 1,000 other things they're trying to balance, especially at the beginning of the school year. My last note on other topics. I got this copy yesterday, this Kentucky School Advocate of the Kentucky School Board Association, and they focus in on traceable communications this month. And so you don't have to just get this in paper form. You can go toward electronic. And I thought it's pretty good. It gives a lot of different perspectives of this. The main takeaway I get, there's going to be changes, I suspect, in the upcoming legislative session about some unintended consequences that came out of the way that this was written. But I think that the document here is pretty good. Also want to make you aware, we awarded the Stillwell Award. We did this during an Office of Education Technology meeting to Robin Wolf Morley. and it's the most prestigious award that we give to districts and to other, our partners that we have out there. And Robin Morley was part of us in the initial birth of the Kentucky Education Technology System. She led the efforts of the Munis implementation from a technology deployment in our school information system. And she had 3 tours of duty with us here. And she came back and helped us. Once she left here, she went on to work in some other parts of state government. The Governor's Office of Technology, now called the Commonwealth Office of Technology, for many years, and was a good teammate in that capacity. Then rolled back here and was a big part of establishing our project management services we have, an office here in KDE. And then left, and then once again circled back here and was a big part of us helping getting the federal dollars for education technology. She played a role in all of the department, but played a role in helping us, for example, the money that we got for the CUES deployment, to continue the CUES deployment and have an extended time frame. She played a big role in that, along with the online registration funding that we were able to get extended, and some of the other fundings that we had extended. So, wanted you aware, Robin Wood Morley will be added to our Stillwell Award winners. We'll make sure, if it's not already on our website, we need to add that, and I want to make sure that happened. Is there anything that our field staff, we kind of went through there? I want to give, I mentioned on here, our field staff can mention thing. I went through the Chuck's list. I call it Chuck's list. Is there anything else in here that our field staff would like to mention, or anyone else would like to mention with the audience here? I'll take a look at the chats here.
The chat this month, today, extremely active.
Okay. It is good clarification for James. Last year, but 2025, no. So 25, 26, no. Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And we do know that a significant number of districts kept that in their local budget.
Okay,
because,
good.
as a reminder, we were doing a reimbursement strategy. So it was being paid locally, and then
Gotcha.
we sent a
Thank you for that clarification and correction. Okay, KSA just sent an email with intended upcoming changes to Bill 181. Thank you, Maria. Yeah, it's going to need some. Just looking at the comments here. Yeah. I'm just reading Jody Rose, your comment here. Services. Okay. Yep. Gotcha. Unless our field staff have something they want to add on to, or anyone else, well, I'll just close it out here.